who guides us in a right path on various occasions. This Advent, we are fortunate to listen to our Metropolitan, His Grace Dr. Johanan Mar Demetrius.
Jesus Christ who assumed human form, the story we celebrate in the month of December. And forestalling a chance against meeting again, I would like to take this opportunity to wish God's peace and blessings on all members who are participating in this evening's ceremony meeting. As usual, on Christmas time, we have this melange or a composite picture of Christmas, of the wise men coming and of the shepherds with the beautiful picture of innocent lambs standing by the cradle or the creche of Jesus Christ, much something like we construct in our churches or in our homes to celebrate this event. And yet it must be stressed that the story of the birth of Jesus Christ, as represented by the Gospel of St. Matthew and St. Luke, carry different messages. Let us recall that the wise men only appear in the Gospel according to St. Matthew, and there are no references to the arrival of the wise men in St. Luke's Gospel. And similarly, it is only in St. Luke's Gospel that we read about the shepherds and the announcement by the angelic hosts of the great story of God becoming or taking human form. And I would like to take this opportunity to stress the story of Jesus Christ's birth as recorded in the Gospel according to St. Luke. Now, if you begin with chapter 1, you will see all through chapter 2 a caryatid of characters, a whole string of them, who at various points in their lives experience the miraculous intervention of God in their lives. All of them who seem to have some kind of existential problem in their lives. And we look at the opening chapter and we hear of Zechariah and of Elizabeth. People in old age, stigmatized by the fact that they have no children, enduring so many years of insults, of being marginalized, of being cast aside by a society which valued children and the kind of social security they afforded. And then we would look at Saint Mary. Here is a young girl who is going to conceive, or rather bear, God in her womb according to the announcement by God. And then, of course, there are the shepherds who come or hear the announcement by the angels of this mysterious young child, which will be a signal to all others of the promise of the redemption of that humankind is going to experience in a short while. And last but not least, there are the wonder children, the birth of John the Baptist and of Jesus Christ. Altogether, which Luke is trying to present to us a singular theme, which is all our lives we look at people who seem to be marginalized and cast aside by our society, our elderly, Zechariah and Elizabeth. We see so many Zechariahs and Elizabeths, and yet we do not consider their situation as important to our lives. And much like what we do today in that society, here are these two people without the safety net of their society, trying to make meaning of their lives. And into their lives there comes the finger of God, lifting them out of the depths of their despondency and saying, you will have a child, or you will have a son. And then you look at Saint Mary, I think, who represents all those young girls who are raped and who are carried children out of wedlock and who are thrust aside by society, because young girls and women, much like we do today in our society, are cast aside, whose rights and safety become only of second importance in our society. And we look at those who are cast aside because of economic factors, the shepherds. Nobody hears them, nobody sees them. One could imagine in this lonely field in the midnight as they're tending their sheep, only the angels hear them. Nobody in Bethlehem seems to be aware of this small group of people who suffer the biting cold and the loneliness of tending sheep as they carry their lives. They also experience the neglect of a society that values only wealth and luxury and the security of those who are acknowledged as people of importance and significance in society. And then, of course, there are the children in Jewish societies who are not to be seen, who are not to be heard. The rights of children which are trampled upon in our country, as we look at the statistics of children who are forced into sexual prostitution, neglected because we don't hear them, we don't see them, we don't want to hear them. What is Saint Luke trying to tell us in this Christmas season? This is an event where we open our eyes, and that is what we see in the beginning itself. Zechariah sees the angel. Saint Mary sees the angel. And the shepherds see the angelic hosts. And it's a call for us to open our eyes and to look at our surroundings and say, where have we forgotten our senior citizens and our elderly people? What is the care that we extend to them? We look at Saint Mary and our eyes should be open to the reality of all those women who struggle to make meaning of their lives after being raped and cast aside, or because of dowry are burned and killed and murdered. We look at the shepherds as representatives of all those who are cast aside because of economic disadvantage. In the biting cold of our Delhi winter, how many of us are willing to see those of us who suffer these cold nights and to extend to them a care and a comfort that we take for granted? And what about the children? So many of them who disappear, only to be lost in the ghettos of sex mafia and others, traded to those who have the wealth and the privilege to trample upon the rights and upon the lives of others. Isn't this what diaspora is called to do? To open the eyes of all our members, or to reach out to those who are estranged from the life of the church and to bring them back, the old, the elderly, the women who come from so many different communities, who have through marriage been introduced in the church but feel so alienated and neglected because we don't consider them a part of our family. Our children, in situations at home where under the pressure of parental demands and dreams, lead shattered lives because their dreams have been taken away from them and forced into a vocation for which they have neither taste nor talent. What about all these people who surround us? Or do we go around with that proverbial stance, see no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil? That's how our Christmases are being celebrated. And St. Luke's chapters give us this call and saying that if we open our eyes, you will see the face of angels upon all these people whom we have marginalized and neglected and cast aside because they don't fit into the framework of our comfort zone. I'm not talking about family elderly people. Yes, we take care of them. But what about all the others in our society? How many of them do we really care for? Whether it is our spiritual organizations or whether they are our parishes or whether it is the diocese itself. What about the rights of young women? Perhaps our numbers of young women or the stories of our young women who suffer the tragedies of what women go through in our society is not or has not become a story for us to retell. But just because we are secluded securely within the confines of our social fortress does not mean that the story of women is different for our women too, who in their own way experience the loss of making a meaningful story of their own lives, of marriages, because women are advised to accept a passive role, and so suffering abuse, mistreatment, the plundering of their rights, all because in the name of a family, they have to be submissive. And we look at all those who don't have the privilege of the security we enjoy in life. We see so many young children deprived of the right to education, the right to a home, the right to a family. Yes, the right to an adequate situation and comfort situation in life. We look at young children and we look at the promise of what they represent for our society in the future, and sometimes I wonder where exactly our young children are today. What is the kind of formation they receive today in our families? Are they good children merely because they get straight A's? Are they emotionally sensitized and made aware of how to live in our society? Are they sensitive enough to understand what is their commitment to their society and to the church? And St. Luke seems to be striking a very, very raw chord in our lives when he presents these people and says, take a look at them. Take a look at them. And see in these people the kind of issues that we face in our society today. And ask the question, what have you done? What have you done? And that is where the picture of God with whom we relate raises a disturbing question. What are your celebrations? What is the meaning of what you do in church on Sundays when you do not have the correlate of taking care of these people? In Isaiah, God turns to Israel and says, what is the use of all your festivals and of all your sacrifices? You don't listen to the widows, you don't take care of orphans. You do not give the rights of aliens in your land. One could multiply all the laws of Israel which call them to commit themselves to a social responsibility. It is when we become people aware and committed to acting. We listen to sermons, and when we listen to sermons, we are touched. We want to go into it, but then we forget all about it. It's when we translate these concepts into actions that the meaning of Christmas becomes real. Today, this Sunday, we also celebrate the feast of Bishop Nicholas, Santa Claus. And you know how the story goes. This was a bishop who went around in the middle of the night because he didn't want to be identified. And the red dress of Santa Claus is the red dress of a bishop. He would go around in the middle of the night. That's why Santa Claus comes in the middle of the night. Unknown, unseen by others, and go and visit the poor people and leave a small bag of coins in their houses, from where we get this tradition of exchanging gifts in Christmas. All calling us to recognize that Christmas only becomes meaningful when we open our eyes and become part of the solution of what our society goes through. Otherwise, it becomes only another exercise for those who enjoy the comfort and the security of their homes amidst the luxury of a warm fire or surroundings, enjoying a rich meal and forgetting how many others go to bed with the flames of hunger burning in their stomachs. Or for those who do not possess a single blanket to cover themselves against the cold and biting nights of December and January. Let me conclude this address. Diaspora is committed and called to reach out to those who are distanced from the life of the church. The true significance of Christmas will become real when diaspora can bring into the fold all those who stand at distance, and they can enjoy the fact that this fellowship here promises the assurance of God's presence in their lives, that we are here to help one another to experience the presence and the power of God's miraculous intervention in the life of every individual. I would like to take this opportunity to pray that God's Holy Spirit will create in us a deep desire, a strong zeal that will translate our ideas and objectives into actions that will bear a witness to what Christianity is. As Christ teaches, let your lives so shine before men that others, seeing your good works, will raise up praise to God. Indeed, may our praise join with those of the praises of the heavenly hosts as we celebrate the advent of Jesus Christ assuming human form, so that we, like God, can extend the love of God to all those aged, single, marginalized because of economic factors, children, everybody in our society who are marginalized. so that Christmas can become meaningful, not only to us, but also to all of them. May God bless us all. Amen.